Hello, and we're back with another Designer Spotlight. I'm Snow Blackwood, and I run a creative agency here in Portland, Oregon. Our Designer Spotlight series is all about connecting with creatives and learning about their process, their path, and who they uniquely are. It's my goal to share insights on design, creativity, and business through this series. Today, I've got two very hardworking women with me, Gail Owens and Nelli Pavlenko. They are in the wallpaper design industry. Gail is an artist who transformed her work into something easily repeatable through hand-pulled printmaking and is now selling her prints through wallpaper designs. And Nelli runs Manalo Walls, a wallpaper design shop that sells local Portland artists custom design wallpaper. So I'm very excited to have both of you here. Gail, Nelli, thank you so much for participating in this series. Perhaps we can start with each of you talking a little bit about how you transitioned into running your own businesses. Nelli, why wallpaper? Tell me more about your journey. Where did the name Manolo come from?
So why wallpaper is actually a funny story because my background is stone and tile. So I'm used to when you have stock, you have warehouse guys, you have forklifts, you have to have inventory, you have to have a large warehouse to store everything. I've always envisioned something on my own. It's just that background for myself seemed a little bit unfeasible. I didn't want to stay in the industry. I love the industry, I still do. The idea actually came from a TV show that I saw, and I saw them doing an installation of wallpaper, and I was like, wallpaper. Well, I can lift 50 square feet of wallpaper in one hand. I can't do that with tile. I knew about the home industry because at that point I was in the home industry for quite some time. So anywhere from selling appliances to stone, tile, working for a fabrication shop, working for an import-export company. So that was a new adventure. So it felt a little bit safe, but also new at the same time. Like I wasn't gonna, I didn't go to a totally different field that was not anywhere close to where I was, from. So it wasn't as scary. And so for a year, as I decided that I wanted to do wallpaper, I did research. I did extensive research. I connected with different mills. I connected with other wallpaper stores. One particular one in New York, we ended up connecting because we have similar backgrounds. So I'm Russian. I was born in Russia. I was 8 years old when I moved here. So we kind of connected on that. And so he just kind of opened up the world of wallpaper for me. Helped me out a little bit, guided me through which lines to carry. I didn't know anything about which lines, what, who's who and what's what. I didn't know anything about wallpaper. I ended up ordering over $3,000 worth of wallpaper, single rolls or double rolls of wallpaper from him, just so that I could play with them, figure out the textures, figure out the different substrates, what's what does this mean or what does that mean? So I invested a lot of money into learning about the product. And then I also invested a lot of time and research into the product itself. I like to deep dive and nerd out on something when I like something. And this was something that I was going to be investing a lot of my time and money into potentially. So I really wanted to make sure I knew it. That's kind of how it started. Manolo Walls, actually, we were at a concert with my husband, and he'll tell you, I hate concerts. I don't really care for music. I'll drive in silence. But this was early stages of marriage/dating. I can't remember when. I think it was early stages of marriage. So I'm I'll go to a concert with you. And there was a song, and there was a word Manolo in there, and I was like, Manolo. Very cool. I like the word. If I ever have a business, they'll name it Manolo, whatever,
Oh, funny. That is awesome.
So nothing really it wasn't like a, you know, a name or anything.
Yeah, I was thinking
the family
Manolo
background.
Shoes.
Nothing to do with that. I actually didn't, I love shoes, but it never even crossed my mind until later. But it's funny because everybody thinks my name is Manolo. So
That was a great word. Yeah.
I love the word. I love the name.
That's how I would choose a name too. Like how I chose my son's name, Shiloh. Is just, I saw a sign and I liked the way it sounded. It's like,
basically.
Don't work, Shiloh.
It's like seeing something shiny and liking it.
Yeah,
like, oh yeah,
I like that.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's basically how the company came about. Yeah, I'm not a man.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks I'm a man. I'm not a man. Because of the name. It's not my name. It's just a word that I like. And it is what it is now because it's like I've been doing it for so long, it's staying.
Yeah.
But I branched out and started doing my own line of wallpapers after I had a little discrepancy with one of the manufacturers, and I was like, well, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to do my own line. So I connected with an artist initially here in Portland. Her name is Kate Blairstone, which, you know, her line I sell on our website now. And she was the first person that we kind of connected because we did a couple of commercial projects and we kind of worked from there on. And she's a lovely person, like to work with. I love working with her, but we had a meeting and like, okay, how much do we really like each other? Like, is this gonna work or not? And we like really clicked. So that was really cool. And then, so it kind of like birthed from there because she wanted to do something on her own and I wanted to do something, but I didn't have the time or the bandwidth for artwork. I didn't have time to create. Maybe one day, year, I don't know, decade, I'll create something of my own. But for now, I love the work that's produced by other artists. I love artists. I love art. So it started with Kate, and then Gail came in to the showroom one day, and I'll let her take over and tell you guys how that happened down the road. But you know, connected with Gail from there, and then I have a good friend who's an artist. She, you know, she's always wanted to have another source of income, so she's on my to-do list for artwork. And then, so yeah, basically that's just kind of how it came about.
Wow. Very cool. Yeah. You are one tough cookie, obviously. And I love the wallpaper behind you too, by the way. Who did that?
So this is by Tebow. It's called Hansu. I actually have this pattern installed in a blue color in one of in my house, and then this is also by Tebow. I just did two different patterns to showcase that you can mix patterns together. Yeah,
it's so cool. It works really well. Gail, I've known you for a long time. I know what a hardworking artist you are, and all that your journey has been so long through many forms of art. And what I've always admired about you is your ability to also have a business mind as an artist and figure out how to actually be a money-making artist. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey through your career and kind of how you transitioned into the artist that you are today?
Okay. I never intended to ever choose to be an artist on purpose. It's so hard. I knew it was going to be hard. I have a whole lot of family artists as well, and they've struggled, and it's tough. You have to have a tough constitution. You have to figure out how to be a marketer. I mean, it's just a lot. When I wasn't mature enough to ever be an artist when I was younger, so I went the corporate path. But because I grew up around uncles giving me magic boxes and pull toys, and my aunts were painters and sculptors, it was something natural I did from when I was a kid. And I remember begging my grandfather to let me use his jigsaw. I'm like, Papa, please let me use your jigsaw. And he's like, I was 8. And he was like, okay, but don't tell your mother. I mean, it was a big secret that I was using power tools that young. So I found myself without, a lot of people are going through this now. I just went through it a lot earlier than other people, and I hope to be an inspiration for other people. I found myself without a career in Portland, Oregon, and I took a little time off. I was like, I'm no longer going to be messing with kilns with expensive glass, blah, blah, blah. So I had a background in printmaking, and I decided, I was like, this is the best tool I can have. I have low overhead. It just takes ink, a roller, and a press, and I can be a designer. I can design toys, and I started printing every day. So I got to the point where I was like, well, I want to make some real fine art. What's my topic? I want to appeal to everyone. And my press was this big. So I was like, well, maybe I can repeat my patterns. And then where do I go from there? Everything I did had to come off of the press. I couldn't mess around with anything else, because it's the power of reproduction that is so attractive to me. So I was like, all right, if I'm going to make a business out of this, what can I make? I started making toys that move. I make toys. Then I started printing flowers, and then I started exhibiting on street fairs. I've gone through everything you can imagine in Portland, from street fairs to Art in the Pearl to independent galleries to universities all over Oregon. So I was building my repertoire, and it was all flowers. And because I wanted my work to be reproduced, but not like a reproduced painting, I wanted something that I could offer as a reproduced high quality wallpaper. So I'd been testing my product on the public this whole time. And I didn't want to sell out to corporate. I didn't want to give my designs away. So I started looking for small businesses that I could partner with, and Nelli was on my list, the top of my list. I didn't mean to go in and make an appointment that day, but that's what happened. I was in there to look at wallpaper, and she came down the stairs, and we started talking, and I ended up with an appointment to show Nelli my work.
Yeah.
And then she chose, I think you said you wanted 5 images, and I gave you 6. So we did a test run for the first 6 wallpaper designs last year.
I would love to know more about your process of how you create your prints. So I think it's perfect. Flowers translate perfectly to wallpaper. So that seems like serendipitous that when you were designing the flowers, when you started getting into making the flower art, were you thinking that you wanted to do flowers because you could see a future in wallpaper, or did that kind of come like just organically as you?
It evolved organically. I taught myself reduction printmaking, which is using one block, and then you when you're done carving it out, it's really nerdy. It's the nerdiest kind of printmaking. You might want to cut that out, but let me start that again.
I find it very interesting. I love this stuff.
When I was recreating myself, I'm very Jungian, where I want my inner self to be exhibited on the outer self. A lot of artists want to be their own psychologist and let everybody know what's going on inside in their minds. And for me, I want to have a positive environment, and flowers are naturally just reproductive and positive symbols. Mm-hmm. And I went back to thinking about art history and the rule of thirds, and I was like, okay, I can take these flowers and I can juxtapose them. I have a limited palette. What can I do with this size? And if it looks good geometrically, it should look good theoretically as a larger matrix. And so I just meditated on that, and so I'd work out my designs, and then I would just cross my fingers, because you mess up and it's over with. Every single print I'd make, I was like, feel it like I was standing on the end of the roof. I'm like, this is my one chance to do it. This is my one way. I have to do a perfect dismount. So that's how I built my body of work. I had to do it in a short amount of time, as fast as I could, because I had no inventory to start with. I was like, okay, how do I become an entrepreneur and retool myself? And what are my pros and cons? I have inflammatory arthritis. So like my aunt, she was a wood carver. She wrecked her hands. So I can only do so much.
Yeah.
So printmaking is pretty easy for me. I can't do hard labor. I can't tile. I would love to do, make a side gig, tiling houses, but I can't. I couldn't do it. So that was one of my considerations. I have to have low impact.
Right. Smart. And I'm curious if you have a favorite wallpaper design that you've done so far, if one of them is a favorite of yours. And the dogwood is one of my favorites.
That's it. That's the dogwood. Yeah, the magnolia I'm going to be presenting to Nelli.
And so my next question, I'm wondering, do the two of you work collaboratively on any of the wallpaper designs that you've done?
Nelli's so busy and I'm so busy. So when we get together, it's a massive download. And so I did 3 peonies made out of 3 blocks. And so I did because my business model is I sell original artwork and I make reproductions. This is an example of this block peony that's sewn to paper.
Beautiful. Oh, that's so cool.
So I take these and I have them scanned, and then I'm working in Photoshop and I deliver a TIFF file to Nelli.
Awesome. Yeah.
So that was that collaboration.
So I remember one project you had shown me that it seemed like you and Nelli were working on together, like you had kind of had these cutouts of different flowers, and then
that was it.
You were working. Yeah. You guys were kind of figuring out the placement of where they would go.
Yeah. So what we'll do is when Gail comes in, like I'll pick the patterns that I think will sell, or that I think there's a gap in the market with, and then we'll talk about like the scale, or we'll talk about like pattern placement sometimes, or color variations. So we'll collaborate in terms of like, she'll ask me, what do you see missing in the market? And like, what do you feel like the market wants or needs? And so we'll push off of that. And because I am in the industry and I'm looking at this stuff all day, every day, like I can envision certain, like the market going a certain direction, or I can see certain things missing in the market, or I can see something is going to be so unique that it's not like, I haven't seen it yet, and I feel like the market would respond really well to it. So, and sometimes you take a risk and it doesn't pan out, and it's okay. You just kind of have to move on. But I mean, there's always like that risk of taking something that, that you didn't quite think was going to do really well, but then it surprises you, and it does really, really well.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't know where the market's going to go, but sometimes you can kind of pinpoint certain things exactly to how the market's going to respond to it.
Yeah, I'm sure over time you kind of start to get an eye for what's coming up with the trends. And
yeah,
trends are so interesting to me, like what people are attracted to at a certain time and how they kind of grow. All of a sudden it's like, oh, everybody loves this, and we never knew that was.
Well, with wallpaper, I have people coming in. This is like my most asked and my least favorite question is, what is trending and what's in style?
Yeah.
And like my answer, like I want to be nice about it, but I'm like, why would you want to do something that's on trend, like something that's like so trendy that it's going to go out of trend?
Right.
But I mean, it's your house, do whatever you want. Right. But for me, I feel like wallpaper is like art. It's very subjective. So something that like one person would like, another person would hate. We do also do installations and removal, and I've gone into houses and removed wallpaper that whoever like installed it the year before or whatever, still like a relevant pattern. I still have one of that pattern in my books. It's still a good pattern. It's probably a new installation, not like maybe a couple of years old. Somebody sold their house, the new owner did not like it. They put something else in. And it's normal. That's normal. Mm-hmm. But again, it's subjective. So somebody else loved it. Somebody else does not like it. Same thing with artwork. Somebody else might love certain artwork. Another person might not connect with it as much.
Yeah.
So you can't really gauge on like how somebody's going to react to something. So I tell people when, if they're asking for what's good for resale, I always ask them like, how long are you planning to stay in this house? So if it's 5 years or longer, like, don't worry about it. Do whatever you want to do. And then whoever's going to get into that house, they'll either change it or love it. And it's normal. It's the same thing. Like, you know, if they moved into a house and it had bright pink walls and they hated it, but the other person loved it. So, you know, it's like, whatever, you change that. But if it's like something that's like, okay, we're going to be in this house for 2 years or less, we just want to spruce it up a little bit for ourselves while we're here. Well, then I'll tell them, okay, you might want to go with more neutral patterns, or like maybe do like a geometric or in the neutral colorway or something like along those lines.
Something that's more likely to be accepted.
Yeah, more appealing to the general masses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any kind of like questions that you ask to help people kind of tune in to what resonates with them? Like, I would think, you know, people would have a hard time knowing what they like sometimes.
So when somebody walks in and they don't know where to even start, because we have over 300 books from different manufacturers in the showroom. So there's, you know, you can spend weeks in here easily. But I like to tune in to like what they like. So I'll ask them, and I'll ask general questions and generic questions. Like, are you more West Elm, or are you more Pottery Barn? Like, what's your style? Are you more Anthropology? Something that somebody can like know, like connect to and like respond. Or like, what's the house style? Is it a ranch home? Is it like mid-century modern? Is it, farmhouse or whatever? And then what's your like color that's throughout your home? Like, is there like a dominant color or colors that are in your home that like we can push off of? Or do you want to go funky and, you know, bold? Is this a powder room where you can do that and not have any restrictions because you don't live in a powder room, so you can go crazy in there and not get tired of things? Or do you want to go more subdued? And then I ask people, what's your pattern threshold? Like, how much pattern can you handle? How much color can you handle? So I'll ask them a bunch of questions. I'll kind of grill them in a nice way to get an idea of like what to pull for them. And then I'll pull the books that I feel like they'll connect with. And then I'll show them also a broader range. So I'll pull the things that I feel like they'll like, but I'll pull out a couple of like curveballs and throw them in there to see what really they like. Because I've had people come in and then say like, oh, you know, we don't like a ton of pattern, or we don't like a ton of color. I want to give them the muted neutral tones. They don't really connect with them. And then I'll give them the color, you know, the colors and the patterns, and they'll keep gravitating towards that. So like, they like a certain thing in their mind, but they actually live a different way. And they'll show me pictures then of their house, and there's lots of color, lots of pattern. So like, why are you thinking you're going to go more neutral here when you live a certain way? Like, when you love color, you love pattern, why are you going to go neutral on the wallpaper when you should do more bolder pattern there in order for it to stand out? And a lot of it, honestly, like, I love Pinterest and I love HGTV, but they do gear more towards like the masses. So they'll be a little bit more neutral, whereas like everybody's so different. Like, you know, somebody's neutral is somebody's wild, or somebody's wild is somebody's neutral, you know? So you kind of have to, I don't know, read the person a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of psychology. Kind of, you know, I don't get paid as well as like a psychologist. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, play one.
Yeah, I imagine you're getting better and better at it the more you get like how to kind of bring that out in people.
Yeah.
It's almost, Nelli, it's almost like you're an optometrist. It's like you're flipping the little lids and, right?
Yeah.
So my next question, you know, I know how hard running a business is. We're all like small business owners here. And that, you know, putting, especially a creative business, that takes a lot of courage. So I'm wondering, like, what drives you, Gail? What drives you to keep going with what you do?
It's almost like what drives me is I love to be busy, and what drives me is enjoying myself. And what drives me is I want to make things that people want to buy. That's what drives me. And it really drives me to make a profit and be happy selling my widgets. And then you find yourself that you cannot go backwards. It's almost like you've grown up and you can't stay home anymore. You've grown up and you've got to go get your own apartment, and you don't need that. You can't live under the constrictive rules of a corporation anymore. And so I think that it was like a chrysalis for me. I have no other way. I cannot go back there. So what do? I've got to be successful. So I've got to put everything into it. Like, I'm a goals-driven person, so I make a goal in January and I try to stick with those goals, and I've done pretty well this year too. So I've been able to make my goals, and it's almost too much. I'm like, okay, I can't do more than so-and-so amount of shows because I'm going to lose it. Thankfully, my husband and I set ourselves up that we could take this kind of hit. So I can focus and do a little gig work, and I'm helping pay the bills, and it's tough, but I see a future. Whereas the future of going back to a corporation for the golden handcuffs is just not worth it.
Yeah, I think that's really smart too, to like know when you're overworking yourself, because it can be scary being out on your own and not having that, standard 9
or safety net, because you're free fall. I mean, So anyways, I just try to work it with excellence every day, and it seems to be working. If there's negativity in my life, I have the power to get it out of my life. Yeah. I can say, no, I don't want to work with this group or that group. I'm not forced to work with anybody.
Yeah.
That's
because your surroundings and how you want to stay. And
So I know Nelli feels this way too, that she learned enough in her career. It's like you can take anything and take that model and follow it loosely, and that is a success model. You're you have a product, you have a customer, you stick with your goals, but you're also doing everything, because like she doesn't have the warehouse workers that the stonemasons had. So, we're one-man bands, and we collaborate with other people to get our end result. So it is like a really nice collaboration thing between me and Nelli. It's a fun working relationship, I believe.
Oh, I bet that made a big difference when you partnered with Nelli to have somebody else to work with, kind of to talk about your designs. And
I see that she has drive, and that was what attracted to me to her. She's blunt, she's got drive, she knows what she wants, and she gets it.
Yeah. And so Nelli, how do you do that? What drives you, and how do you stay like confident that you've got this? And
I don't know. Every day is a new day, and just kind of keep putting one foot after another, No, but like when I first started the business, for the first year, before I even like went out on my own, I knew I was going to do that. So that whole year, I was able to, and that was like the year that we got married, and my husband was really supportive of the idea.
That's great.
And he just loves me doing whatever. He doesn't mind anything like that I decide to do. Like, if you want to go do it, go do it, whatever.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to like be able to save all the money that I made and put it aside before I started the business. And we just lived on one income. We scaled down, we did. And we lived below our means so that we wouldn't have too much pressure. So I did, save some money. And then when we started the business, when I started the business, I like to pretend I have, office staff in my head. I don't know. It makes me feel better when we...
I've got a whole staff right here.
talk to the manager.
You're fired, Gail. You're fired.
No, but when I started, like, I didn't have any debt, like, and I had some savings. So that was a huge thing for me because I didn't have to, worry so much about like the pressure of like having the pressure of like paying for the overhead, especially the first like 3 years were really tough. I actually didn't pay myself for 3 years. I just kind of kept putting everything back into the business. It was tough. Like won't lie to you. It was really tough. My very first visit to a designer, like a local design group here. I won't mention any names. My very first visit, like where I was dropping off my cards and I was saying like, hey, new wallpaper store in town, would love to work with you. Let me know if you have any questions. And I left my card and the girl looks at me like point blank and she's like, wallpaper's out.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
I was just like, thank you. Have a nice day.
No, haven't you heard? Wallpaper is making a comeback. That's the headline, the never-ending headline.
Nelli, that is exactly why I always go incognito first.
That was like, fortunately for me, that was the worst for me. But all the other designers that I knew in my previous career, they supported me. A lot of clients that I worked with at the other job, I told them about this new venture and they were excited. So they, brought me onto their projects. So the first year, that's how I survived, is like working off of my old clients.
Right.
And then also, and then from then on, it was just like projects kept building, things kept happening, and I just kept moving forward. The very first 3 months were really, really tough, I want to say, just because I went from an office where like everybody constantly needed something from me. And like, you're getting split into 10 different directions at the same time. And I honestly, I thrive on that. And it went from that to like crickets, like literal crickets in the office. And
that's scary.
It was really like that mentally was really hard to like get past.
Yeah, I had the
get used to.
Same anxiety at first, just like, oh my gosh, I need to be super busy all the time.
Yeah. That was probably the hardest thing, is going from like being so needed to like nobody wants you.
Right. Yeah. How much we rely on, how big a part of our lives work is.
Yeah. It was,
when you go out on your own.
Definitely, people don't realize it until they're in the situation. And like I've had a couple of friends that like since COVID, started working at home, and, the very first few months were really hard for them also. I'm like, now exactly how I felt. Except for you have a paycheck coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the whole COVID, transitioning to working through COVID, was probably a lot easier for all of us than many people who are used to going to the office all the time and having a set schedule.
Well, now that's like, for me now, I'm back to like, I'm getting split into 20 different directions, and I love it. Like, it's hard and it's exhausting. And at the end of the night, I'm exhausted, but in the morning I get up and do it again because I love doing what I do. It's hard. It is hard. There's a lot of things that I can't do. A lot of like our vacations have become like weekends. So like we'll fly out somewhere for like Saturday, come back Sunday night.
Wow. Yeah.
Fly out Friday night, come back Sunday night. So it's like, there's a lot of sacrifices that we've had to make. I've had to make. So there's a lot of, sacrifices that like you make as a business owner, especially a small business owner. And I mean, you have to just kind of keep plugging along. I don't know if there's like, a like driving force behind anything other than just like, I like to stay busy. I love working. I need to, personally, I need to just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that kind of leads me to my next question and my last question, which is, how do you stay centered and care for yourself with the amount of stress that your business and life, especially life these days, can bring? Are there certain things that you feel like you do to really kind of keep you grounded and calm?
You go. You go.
You go, because there's nothing on my end.
Well, that is a real delicate balance. I have to say that I have to make hard decisions. Like, I was working 2 galleries, and I was sacrificing my happiness and spare time, and I wasn't getting anything done in my shop, and I just 2020 happened, and I was like, okay, this is a good time for, there's decisions you had to make, when you're an entrepreneur, and sometimes it's tough. It's like, this is not working for me, and I've got to claim my time back and then focus my direct energy in another direction. I am exhausted. I don't know if you can escape that when you're an entrepreneur. And that's one of those sacrifices that you do make if you don't want to work for the corporation, is that you work 7 days a week. I choose the worst times to take a break, and it's right before deadline. I just go, I can't take this. I'm just going to stop. And that's why I was doing candles right before this. Yeah.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, like for me, I have to get away. Like, I don't, like if I'm at home, I can't just take the weekend off because I can't say no. And I can't just I can't sit at home and not do anything. Mm-hmm. So I have to literally leave town in order for me to get some sort of rest.
Right.
So we'll go to the beach. It's like an hour and a half away, even if it's for one night, we'll get out, go look at the ocean, reset,
Yeah.
So
it makes such a difference just to get away. But for me too, it's like, I have to just leave my environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I literally have to leave town. Otherwise I can't. Mm-hmm. And even if it's flying out somewhere for 2 nights or driving out to the coast for a night or 2, something that's minor, mm-hmm. completely resets me and I'm ready to go again.
Yeah. Is there any last things, events or stuff coming up that either of you want to let people know about?
I have to say that keep an eye out for the new designs that I'm rolling out with Nelli, which will be peony, and I'll be sending her some other files to choose from. So we have the 2021 5 design requirement, so she'll have a few to pick from.
Great.
I'm excited for that to come out too.
Manolo, Nelli, that you want to tell people about?
So just look out for new patterns in early 2021.
Awesome. Exciting.
Cool. 2022.
Let me redo that again. Cut.
Here's real indeed. Thank you both so much for chatting, and I'll share the websites of each of you so that people can look you guys up and come visit.
Awesome.
Snow, thanks again, Snow. This has been a real pleasure, and I enjoyed this a lot. Thanks, Snow.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.